Now, the bandwagon, as they say, was getting heavy. Everyone started to jump on the bandwagon again.
Portland is not in a position to try to come back, and he should just kind of leave that alone.
Stop being satisfied with mediocre performances.
I don't like it. Plain and simple, I really don't like it. An all-star game just shows how much they just kind of continue to placate the players and their lackadaisical efforts on the court.
You really sparked my interest, and I'm sure that of many others. Alister, Albert, thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to the inaugural premiere first episode of Baseline to Baseline with Alister and Orane. I am Alister Albert, and this is, of course, my host, my co-host, Orane Buchanan, right here in Jamaica, coming in and doing this with me. Anyone who knows what I've been doing over the past couple of years, I've been the Sportsmax lead basketball analyst for the station. But of course, Sportsmax is now done in the Caribbean. This is very sad news for all of us across the region. But myself and Orane, we've had some discussion since that has happened, and we decided to come together and put a basketball podcast together where we could talk about the game, the NBA, continue to do that, but also kind of do a little bit of a twist and give a little bit of a Caribbean spotlight to the players in the league who are of Caribbean descent, and also have conversations later on in the season where we talk about talent within the league, the pipeline of talent, national teams, coaches, players, and everything. So we're trying to give this Caribbean voice to basketball whilst also still talking about the NBA. So I'm Alister, like I said, previously Sportsmax analyst. I've done a little bit of writing for Bleacher Report, done a few little sport appearances on BBC Radio, and I'll just pass over to Orane. He could kind of give a little bit of what he does sports-wise and what we're going to be doing together.
Well, Orane Buchanan, new sport, I almost said news, sports producer, sports reporter, sports presenter. This is my third rodeo. Started off in TV, then eventually into newspaper, and now I'm into radio. So the full aspect, the whole 360 of sports, I'm evolving in my short time so far in it. Basketball junkie, my favorite sport, if I have to be honest. So excited for this new platform. So let's get it.
Let's get it cracking. So this will consider what we want to just mention really quickly, and I think it's really important to say, being very clear about what's happening within the region right now. I think, most of us will be aware of who are in the region at this date. We are bracing for tropical storm, I think it is right now, or hurricane.
Yeah.
So,
tropical storm that should turn into a hurricane. So everyone in Jamaica, where I think the direct hit is right now in that path and heading on to Cuba, everyone stay safe, or in yourself do stay safe as well. I know you're sparing some time before you have to move on and get prepared and everything for that. So you guys stay safe over there, and hope you can continue to follow us as we go on with everything. All right, so talking about the NBA, one of the things that has come up to the start of the season, it's been a brilliant start. We've seen some really great performances so far, but one of the things that has just broken the internet over the last couple of days is this sports betting scandal which has come about, where the FBI and FBI Director Kash Patel had an impromptu, it seems like, a press conference to kind of talk about players who are involved in sports betting and illegal poker games. So we have Chauncey Billups, the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, was implicated into that. Terry Rozier, Miami Heat player, and previously Malik Beasley, who had been under investigation as well. So this has come in at the start of the Damon Jones
as well. Yeah, thanks for reminding me there. Former coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. These guys have been implicated, and it has been said that there'll be more names coming about and everything. And this has rocked the NBA. It's been across all sorts of news houses, CNN, and everyone presenting about it. Orane, what did you think about this, and how do you think this is kind of going to impact the teams moving forward?
Well, for me personally, I'm from a biblical background. My dad is a pastor, so I think the best way is to start it off is with a scripture. One of the scripture that would be in line with this is
love of money is the root of all evil.
It-
I mean, Terry Rozier, for example, is in the final year of a $96 million contract, I believe.
Mhm.
There's no reason for him to be involved in something like this. It's not to single out him particularly. It's just that I know his contract situation.
Mhm.
There were reports that he had over 200,000 US dollars delivered to his home based on tips he's giving off. I mean, if we have to be honest, we're in the business of money. Sports is money.
It-
It's a huge financial revenue generating system, and guys do it. I mean, you have information on your team. Okay, this guy is not playing. You have friends that are not in a financial situation, a beneficial financial situation as you are. So
Yeah.
you give them tip off. So you tell them, all right, bet $1,000, $2,000 on this. This is
Mm.
what will happen. And then whatever money they make, you get a percentage out of it. But I
Yeah.
think that's for people that are less, I don't want to say less fortunate, meaning poor, but not in a huge financial situation as you are. You're in the NBA, you're a millionaire. I don't
It-
think you should be involved in things like that.
I
I
agree.
mean, you're from the garrison, you're from the hood, as they say, but you don't have to keep the same mentality as when you were growing up. So I think for him particular, it's bad on all of them. But I think this could be the end of his career because I don't think Adam Silver will ever allow him to be back on
That's
an
it.
NBA team, on an NBA floor. And also Chauncey Billups, it's a different thing with him with the poker game underground world. I think if he's implicated in this and if he's found guilty, it could be the end of him as well. So these guys are putting their careers at risk
Like,
involving in things like this. And I
mhm.
think the NBA now will have to clamp down hard on them because it's not just a league situation, it's a worldwide thing. I mean, it's made news, Al Jazeera, BBC, CNN, every single where. I mean, even it led my sportscast
Mhm.
yesterday. That was the top story that I heard
Right, right.
with the NBA world. So I mean, it's the biggest news now in sport with this illegal gambling thing, and it's just sad what's happening
It's
and
it's it's crazy, and
crazy.
yeah, I think yeah, you hit the nail right in the head and everything, and of course, us coming from Caribbean backgrounds, you're right. That phrase you talk about from your father, that money is the root of all evil. That is something that we grew up with and was indoctrinated within us. And in terms of trying to do things in a legitimate way, we are hardworking Caribbean people. So when you hear about these sorts of things, it's like the first thing I thought about, DeAndre Ayton. He's these guys who are Caribbean people in the league. And the first thing I'm thinking, if DeAndre Ayton mother ever hear him part of doing that sort of thing, she'll be screaming, DeAndre, don't let me hear you part of that, where in that sort of way, parents of Caribbean people will probably be really, really disappointed to know that their kids are involved in this sort of thing. But like you say, there's the money behind it and everything, and probably wanting to help friends. Alluding to what you're saying there, I think Michael Porter Jr. during the off season gave an interview where he kind of raised that point about wanting to do things and help friends, and try to give them an opportunity to make a little money. And his brother, of course, was implicated and was the root of all of these sport betting scandals in the NBA. So
Yeah.
it's really, really important, really, difficult to see what's happening to the league right now, in the midst of, Aaron Gordon having a 10 3-pointer, 50-point game last night against the Warriors, Victor Wembanyama going crazy on everyone. And then this, just comes in and spoils the atmosphere of what the start of the season is supposed to be. So, you just have to
Sure.
hold hope that, guys like Chauncey Billups just really starting his coaching career, had big aspirations for, wanting to move forward and succeed. Damon Jones, who has been an assistant coach for so long, giving leaking information about LeBron James, about when he's going to be in and all of that. It's really disappointing to hear these guys putting their careers and reputations in jeopardy for a quick buck when
Yeah.
they've made millions over the years. So, it really, really wanted to touch that really quick because it'll be remiss on us if we didn't touch that, considering how much it's led sports broadcasts and news broadcasts all over the world and everything. But of course, going into the start of the season, we've seen, such a hot start. Like I said, Victor Wembanyama, Aaron Gordon, and all these teams. The Golden State Warriors starting off with 2 wins. Oklahoma City Thunder, 2 double overtime wins to start the season. What has really caught your eye so far at the start of this season? And what do you think we have? Does this foretell or foreshadow what we could expect as the season moves on?
I mean, nothing really has caught my eye per se.
Yeah.
I mean, just 2 games for
Yeah.
most teams. The NBA normally really takes shape after or just about the time at the All-Star game. So at the All-Star mark, that's when things really start to take shape. But I really like what I've seen so far from Golden State Warriors. As I said, the San Antonio Spurs, I was listening to a couple of reports. I mean, people already have the San Antonio Spurs as conference finalists. I'm not too sure about that.
That's quick.
Their depth is not that good, to be honest. I mean, after Wemby, who do you really have there? I mean, Harrison
They're waiting
Barnes
for De'Aaron Fox, who's still injured, but yeah.
But I don't think the Spurs are deep enough to really make a push. But I'm really happy what I see from Wemby. I mean, year 2, I mean, just coming off his injury. Sorry. Love that performance. That 40-point performance was very good. I saw a little bit of everything. You saw what he could do on the defensive end. On the offensive end, you saw what he could paint beyond the 3-point line. I mean, when you have a guy 7'4" doing things like this, it is easy to see how the NBA has transformed now. I mean, years ago, you wouldn't see your center, your power forward doing things like this.
At all.
It might be sacrilegious, but Wemby is playing like Kevin Durant on steroids in terms of his height and every single thing. This is Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis on steroids together. So if this is signs that he's showing in year 2, if he remains healthy, what can this guy do by he's a seasoned vet, year 6, year 7 in the NBA? His 40-point performance in game 1 was the most points a Spur has ever played. That's the most points by a Spur on debut. I mean, we go through the list of great Spur. Tim Duncan, your David Robinson, your Ginobili, your Tony Parker, and this guy from France is relatively unknown at first from France. Comes to the NBA, 40 points, and it wasn't just a stat padding 40 points. You saw a little bit of every single thing from Wemby. So that was good from him. Also, this is a season that I'm really looking forward to see what Ja Morant can do. Ja Morant, a couple years ago, was being touted as the man, the emerging talent in the NBA. If you really watch Ja Morant's progression since, he has fallen down the pecking order in a group that I believe he's with Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, SGA, Trae Young are put in that group as well, Tyrese Haliburton. Those emerging players that can be the face of the league in years to come. Wemby as well, I'll throw Wemby in that. Ja Morant should have been way higher than where he is now. So I think this is a redemption year. You should look at it as a redemption year. So I'm very keen and locked in to see what Ja Morant can do with the Memphis Grizzlies this season. Even if they don't make a deep playoff push, I want to see a MVP type season from Ja Morant.
Yeah,
because he has the talent, he has the ability, he has every single thing that is needed to be great in the NBA. So I'm really keen to see how will he play throughout this season.
No, that's a really good call out. And of course, the Memphis Grizzlies went through a little bit of a change with trading away Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic and getting Kentavious Caldwell-Pope back to that squad. A champion himself, two rings with the Denver Nuggets, and then the bubble ring that he got with the Los Angeles Lakers. So you're bringing some of that championship experience back and someone that is respectable in the locker room that I think could help Ja Morant with some of the immaturity issues that have probably come up and cropped up over the last couple of years in amongst some of the injuries that he's had that has taken him away from the spotlight, and also, everything that comes along with that. So, Ja Morant, I think, is a really good one. Victor Wembanyama, I think they're a playoff contender, let's say. We don't want to put them in the Western Conference Finals just yet. They have a lot to prove, I think. But, let's see how far they move forward with this season and how far they could go. The Oklahoma City Thunder look really good, to start the season. I think the last game that they played against who is it that they played last night? They played the Indiana Pacers in their finals preview. There was a finals replay or the finals last year, without Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner on the Indiana Pacers, of course. But they were able to pull through and put another resilient win. And showing that just as they did in the Game 7 win against them, that they're a team to be reckoned with. They have a few things to clean up. Transition points was a little bit of a issue. Their transition defense, they need to be able to step up and do a little better with that. But they've shown, with their 2-0 start, they will continue to be a force to be reckoned with. The team I really do want people to look out for, definitely, is the Houston Rockets with Kevin Durant now. I think, this is a squad that's going to be absolutely formidable. Amen Thompson, another one of our Caribbean heritage guys from Jamaica, Jamaican descent. He's going to be playing point guard with that huge lineup of Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith, Alfred Sengun, and Steven Adams starting at center. So, right there, right out of the gates, Ime Udoka has shown that, he wants to use this team's strength in their size to try to outdo their opponents as they go through the season. So I think that's also really, really good recap. We there's a lot more to come. This season is going to be really long, and we're going to be able to spotlight more teams and everything as we go along. The one thing I want to really get into here right now, as the season started really quickly, injuries. The injury situation was a really big thing. We have 9 players who were suffered from Achilles tears from the last season. Most notably Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard. We had Kyrie Irving with the ACL injury, and these guys not being there to start the season, puts their team in a little bit of a, trying to figure out an experiment with lineups to see what happens. But with those guys trying to come back, if they could come back healthy and not rush themselves, this is an opportunity for those teams to be even better, adding to the experience that the current rosters will be able to build throughout the season. What do you see from those guys, or those teams affected by the major injuries? LeBron James, who of course hasn't started the season just yet. What do you see about those teams with those guys missing at the moment right now?
Well, that's the importance of depth in your squad. I mean, when you're deep enough, I mean, even if your star player is out, you might not be able to replace him same time. But if you have a good core, 2-3 core that can fill the void, take away 25 points per game. But you have a guy coming in, you have one guy that can score 8. You have a next one that can score 8. You have a next one that can score 8. 8 threes is what, 24? You already can bridge that gap. So depth will be an important factor in the NBA this season. And the deepest squad with the better talent, I think, will win. There's no reason why the OKC Thunder should not start as favorite. This is a young core. They didn't lose anyone that was vital to their championship run from last year. They have the same core. They have everything in place. Sam Presti right down did an amazing job with building from the ground.
Yep.
Right? Building from the ground up. Homegrown talent, you can put it. And this team is young. They still have way more to learn with the NBA. And I think the OKC Thunder should start as favorite. And they're a scary team for whoever comes their way. I mean, they can hurt you in every way possible. So
and I think that's yeah, go ahead. Finish your thought there.
When it comes to depth and everything, I think the deepest team with the better talents will win. But injuries, it's a part of sport. I mean, we've seen somebody like a LeBron James go years without any major injury. I mean, this is the first time he's missing the opening game of his career.
Yeah.
It's just a telltale sign that LeBron is on the back end, the real back end, the back burner now of his NBA career.
Yeah.
We shouldn't expect much. I mean, I personally, he's my favorite player, but I don't expect much from LeBron this season. Well, in the postseason first.
Do you see him still putting up like a 25, 7-7 type season this year? Do you think he can do that?
If the LA Lakers are depending on LeBron James, I still think he can. But if the Lakers are depending on LeBron to give 25 points for them to make a real playoff push, the LA Lakers are in serious problem. At this juncture, LeBron James should be around 16, 17 in the postseason. Allow Luka to weave his magic. 26, 27, give him the keys to the offense. And then when you get to the playoffs now, then you can explode, go 22, 23. But if LeBron James has to average 26, 27 points in the postseason,
too much.
Lakers are in trouble.
Yeah.
That's why this team offense should be carried by Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves second in command, and then LeBron third.
I agree with that. For as you say, and Luka, went and undergone a really big transformation in his body type this year, off season, trying to lose as much weight and try to get in championship shape as JJ Redick asked him to do. And the start of the season, 43-12-9 against the Golden State Warriors shows that he's ready and to do his thing and kind of be the leader of this team. And I think this really segues really nicely into the little power rankings. We're not really talk too much about this as much right now, but this is posted on our Instagram page, and I'm going to put it up on screen here. I think just to articulate and echo what Orane has says, the Thunder, as the defending champions, we have them as the team to beat. They deserve that respect as a team defending champions. Starting off 2-0, I had the Rockets, as a team to really watch as second in the league. And at all those teams at the back end of there, we have the Lakers here. I had them slotted at number 9. With the hope that with health, they'd be able to get better and provide the resistance and competition that we think that they can do with a healthy LeBron James. The Golden State Warriors, right behind them. Orlando Magic, I think, are going to have a brilliant season this year with a East that is a little bit depleted with the injuries that are happening with the Celtics and the Indiana Pacers, etc. The Knicks are looking to, make their way to the finals for the first time since 1999, I believe, and try to make a run in the East there as well. So we have lots of teams that are on these power rankings that I think that need to prove themselves this season, like you said. The Memphis Grizzlies, quite a lot to do, etc., etc. But to segue into this is the next part of this episode, this first episode for us. We want to introduce a guest that we had on as an interviewee, Dr. Edmund Regis. I keep on mixing up his name. Dr. Edmund Regis Jr., expert, musculoskeletal expert, and we interviewed him and we spoke about the injuries taking part in the season and how that's affecting those teams. So we're going to move on into that and get him to speak to us about, given his expertise, he's going to be our resident scientist, an expert on the field and talk to us about injuries and everything and teach us a little more about what these players go through and how it could impact them going on into the season. So we're going to stop right here. Orane, thank you for this, the start of this episode, this podcast. There's going to be a lot more from us as the season goes on. It's going to be a weekly production of these podcasts. But today, to start off, and of course, understanding what the situation is right now with the weather in Jamaica and everything. I know you have a lot of things that you need to do to try to get yourself and family ready. Go ahead and do that. But I'd like the viewers to stay on and listen to this lovely interview that Dr. Regis gave us, explaining, Achilles injuries, ACLs, the sciatica issue that LeBron has, and, talking about, how that impacts these players and how you yourself can kind of learn from that to prevent that from happening to yourself as well. So Baseline to Baseline with Alister and Orane will continue weekly. Watch us, follow us on Instagram, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everything. And you're going to hear a lot more from us as the season goes on, bringing the Caribbean flavor to the NBA analysis and topics like you've seen here and everything as we're doing right now. We're going to be continuing to shoot those hoops and kind of scoring those points for you guys for the Caribbean as we go on. So thank you very much. Listen to the interview, like and subscribe, and we will see you next week where more will be coming to you. Orane, thanks for joining me here for this first one, and we're going to continue as we move forward.
Yes, sir.
That's it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special interview with Dr. Edmund Regis Jr., who is a orthopedic surgical resident and musculoskeletal expert living in Jamaica, St. Lucian-born guy living in Jamaica for the last 10 years. He is heavily involved in sports recreationally and professionally, where he was a former national tennis player and competed in Jamaica's amateur men's physique. I'll come back to that in a second. I did a little bit of research and I was really surprised at that. So we'll come back to that in a second. In his professional medical career, Dr. Regis was recently the president of Jamaica's Association of Sports Medicine, the central chapter, certified sports nutrition coach from the National Academy of Sports Medicine, under 17 Reggae Boys team doctor, and finally the medical director and co-owner of Imagine More Sports Medicine, and also holding the same title for MediConnect Urgent Care, partnering with your FIFA certified sports medicine doctor Shadeen Pinnock, I believe her name is. Welcome to the show. Like I said, this is our first episode, and we want to introduce you to the audience as our resident expert, our medical expert, talking about injuries that come up across the basketball season. But of course, as we know with sports, because you've been very, involved with that, in sports, injuries is very critical and very, impactful to teams when they do happen. And because so many injuries happened last year towards the end of the NBA season, leading on to this year, there are quite a few impact players who have had some injuries that they've had to deal with coming into the season. Of course, the biggest of them all is Forever King. They call him LeBron James with his new advert coming on here for his new shoes titled Forever King. LeBron James, coming up to 40 years old. And, initially it was determined or diagnosed that he had a glute nerve irritation in the glute area. And later on, we saw more reports of him having sciatica issues. Could you tell us a little bit about those, conditions and, what would lead to them? Are they related, etc.?
Okay, first of all, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving me the title as well of being the resident doctor on the show.
That's it. That's it.
Very good question, though. I think everybody is anticipating, like you say, the return of the king.
Yes.
First of all, to be active in the NBA at 40 years and setting a record for the most seasons to be played.
Mm-hmm.
This, by no imagination, is simple and should not be underplayed. This clearly exemplifies tremendous discipline and dedication to both mental and physical attributes of the sport. Nerve irritation, like you asked, to the gluteal region and sciatica can, and I will use it somewhat interchangeably or considered it related, okay?
Okay, cool.
Why I say this is because sciatica is nerve pain from an injury or irritation to the sciatic nerve. The sciatic nerve is the longest nerve in the body and it's located to the lower back or the gluteal region. More scientifically, I would say the lumbar root of L4 to L5 and the sacral root S1 to S3.
So you're speaking about the lower back area. We're speaking about the lower back area. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what the sciatic nerve is really responsible for is controlling muscle in the leg and foot, and also it has a sensory contribution to the lower leg, foot, and toes.
Right.
So causes of this injury, well, I would say common causes is what we consider herniated disc. Mm-hmm. There will be narrowing of the spinal vertebrae, which can be age-related. As the nerve exits, there will be irritation or compression, and that can cause signs and symptoms of sciatica. Okay. Other causes, not specifically related to sporting injury, would be like infection or tumors. But a common cause that usually go unnoticed of sciatica is what is referred to as the piriformis syndrome. So the piriformis is a muscle in the butt or the gluteal region, and it tightens, and that irritates or compresses the sciatic nerve as it passes through. So in the case as it relates to LeBron James, remember last season he started this off-season golfing?
That is.
So this I could attribute to have been a high possibility of the cause of his nerve irritation or sciatica. Okay. Because there could be possible engagements of muscles he has not used prior before, or to such an extent with the action or the golf swing and stuff like that, and that will tie into the gluteal region as well.
And I'll stop you there, and that's really important, I think, to point out to people. And like you just mentioned here, the last off season here, LeBron was really proud of posting his golf, videos of him, on the tees, taking shots and everything. His swing needs a lot of work, as we could say. But you could see it's, and I've played golf myself, and when I did it the first time, you use muscles like you never realized you probably had before. And he has, playing basketball from a really young age, has muscle memory, and just muscle memory from just doing a set of motions, dunking, jumping, and that sort of stuff. The swinging motion of that club, that full extension does really get you in that, abdomen, back area. Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised, like you mentioned, you're the expert, you're saying, but it does make sense why there might be a connection to his off-season activity and what's probably impacting him here right now.
Yeah, so that could be a speculation as to the cause of the sciatica.
Right.
Another thing in terms of timeline and return to play, that is a bit tricky because in terms of an assessment is difficult as assessment is highly subjective.
Right.
And that is how the individual will feel on a daily or weekly basis. So an exact timeline to the return of sport for him, that's kind of tricky or difficult, I would say.
So it's like it's really personal to him and how he
Yeah,
does.
exactly. How
And
he feels.
yeah, and it's widely reported LeBron is probably one of the best, taken care of athletes maybe ever, for 22, 23 seasons. It's been reported he spends like about £1 million $1 million every
True,
off season
true.
to try to keep himself recovered, hyperbaric chambers and all of the stuff that
Exactly.
he does.
Yeah.
So his recovery is you could definitely ensure that he's doing the best that he
He's
can to
getting the
get on the
max.
court. I think I saw a report that I say he's out for about 3 to 4 weeks, and I think we're about a week into that timeline now. So we'll
Yeah.
see how he comes back onto the court. But thank you for that explanation there for fans, who might want to know a little more about, that gluteal nerve irritation and sciatic
Yeah.
connection. And on to the next one, which I think is the most, most frequent one I'd say is the Achilles tendon tear. This has been something where when you hear it, you think that it's the death knell for most athletes, in all sports, whether it be track, football, and anything else. Basketball, of course, it's truly
Volleyball is also very
that's
common
it. Yeah,
because of
the jumping and
nature of the
everything.
sport.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Truly devastating injury to most people. And last season it was reported that 7 players had undergone surgery to repair that injury, but there are actually 9. There were 2 rookies who it happened to them in the preseason and training camp before they actually started the season. So 9 players had Achilles tendon tears last season, which is a record. Adam Silver said in a previous interview the highest was 4 in 2014, 2015. There were 4 injuries before. What could you attest to, this rise in Achilles tendon tears? Is there something that you could say that players are doing differently from back in the day, or is it just the evolution of the game, causing this sort of thing?
Very good question. Very good question. But in terms of how I want to answer this question, I want to give you at least what's the function of the Achilles tendon and how the game has evolved as it relates to that injury and why there might be a predominance or prevalence of that injury more common now.
No problem.
So to answer this question as it related to the Achilles tendon, I think we want to talk about a complete rupture of the Achilles tendon, like in the case of Jason Tatum.
Yep.
So the Achilles tendon, as we know, is located at the back of the leg, so also known as the heel string. The primary function of the Achilles tendon is to perform what you call plantar flexion, which is pointing the toes down.
Right.
Acting like what I would say is a spring to release energy for a powerful push off. So as it relates to this injury being more prevalent in today's NBA, first and foremost, we have to take into consideration the increased intense biomechanical demands of the sport as it relates to the stress of the game.
Right.
The constant jumping and landing, the sudden acceleration and deceleration, and also the false steps, or I would say jabs into today's game. Risk factors that can contribute to the prevalence of this injury in today's era of basketball, I would attribute it to players being drafted into the NBA at an earlier age. This can be speculated that there is earlier specialization into the game that leads to overuse and chronic wear and tear. Also, there is increasing workload and season length that take into account the regular season, the playoffs, and also off-season international breaks as well. So players built in today's modern era of basketball, they are usually taller, heavier, and faster. That in itself multiplies the force exerted on the Achilles tendon during explosive movements.
Is the phrase bigger, stronger, faster? Yeah, that's what the evolution is right now.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Other factors we have to take into consideration: the use of certain medication like antibiotics for whatever reason, especially fluoroquinolones. Also, some aspects of modern athletic footwear or design, like the low-cut shoes, the low-cut shoes, the low-cut shoes, and also the false steps, or I would say jabs into today's game. This can be speculated that there is earlier specialization into the game that leads to overuse and chronic wear and tear. So players built in today's modern era of basketball, they are usually taller, heavier, and faster. That in itself multiplies the force exerted on the Achilles tendon during explosive movements. Other factors we have to take into consideration: the use of certain medication like antibiotics for whatever reason, especially fluoroquinolones.
Okay.
We have to take that into consideration. It may seem trivial, but that's a good point we should highlight.
That's
I
it.
also see some accelerated rehab protocols when treating tendon degeneration. So for a quicker return to play, they can predispose someone to actually a rupture in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, and I'll stop you here with that one because this is really interesting to the current situation of Jason Tatum. His injury happened, I think, in May last year, May 12th, during the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Knicks, of course. 27-year-old, 8 seasons, like you said, probably there's the professionalization of sports really younger in these guys right now, so they're playing a lot more. The evolution of the game, I think comes into play a bit because there's more possession, more fast pace. It's not as slow paced as it was before. So these guys are putting themselves under a lot of strain, and all the medical reasoning that you gave there. With trying to come back earlier, which Jason Tatum said he's not trying to do, but it seems like normally you hear 9 to 12 months. People usually kind of go towards the 12-month timeline. Jason Tatum is trying to come back from what has been reported allegedly in March next year. How do you think that might work with him? Of course, I know it's subjective. People's bodies are different, but what do you think about that?
So the typical timeline for the return after Achilles tendon rupture after the surgery would be 8 to 12 months.
8 to 12.
70 to 90% of NBA players return to the game after such an injury. But in terms of return, how functional would they be when they return? Would they be on the same pre-injury level, or they just returning to say they have returned? How effective they will be for their team? So that of importance after surgery and stuff, of key importance, I would say, would be the rehabilitation protocol, because you'll have to work on your strengthening and etc to get back to that function of play.
Awesome. And yeah, like we said, we saw like 9 players, and the most important ones. You have someone like as old in the sense of basketball, Damian Lillard, who's 35 years old, entering his 14th season. That happened to him as well. That timeline, I would like to think he'll take the full timeline, the full 12 months to kind of get himself ready for next season, not try to rush himself back. Portland is not in a position to try to come back early. You should just kind of leave that alone. And of course, we saw the devastating injury that happened in Game 7 of the finals to Tyrese Haliburton. Very similar, of course, non-contact injury. I could also say I know what it feels like because it happened to me in the summer of 2021. Just trying to make a move towards the basket on the left side, planted my foot and felt that kind of rubber band effect of a rubber band just burst. And not being able to kind of get up. And you could actually hear it, that happened down there, but you could kind of just hear it. It just reverberates throughout the body, and it was not the nicest feeling at all. So I have some personal experience with that. So yeah, thanks for the explanation of that as well. Like you say, it's all very subjective, and these guys need to take care of themselves and think carefully about coming back early, because you might just be affecting the team even more coming back early. And of course, the last notable injury I really want to take into account for another championship contender, most people would say, for the Dallas Mavericks, Kyrie Irving. He had his ACL tear that happened, I think, in his left knee, I believe it was. But ACL injury, tear to Kyrie Irving. Timeline for recovery for that. You tell me what you think that is. How do you think he will return? This is a guy who he's explosive, but it's like he's ground based. He's not up there trying to dunk and take alley-oops as often. How do you see
I
an
like,
ACL
I
injury?
like this, as you said, explosive.
Yeah. Tell us
But
what
ACL, for the viewers and listeners, ACL, which is the anterior cruciate ligament,
Yep.
is a major stabilizer of the knee joint, preventing the tibia, which is the leg, from sliding forward, and it also controls or helps control the rotational movement. To answer the question more specifically as it relates to Kyrie Irving, we all know Kyrie is a very explosive point guard whose game relies heavily on agility and quickness. So a player of his nature would be more prone to such kind of an injury due to the sudden stops, changes in direction, or cutting movement, which his game entails essentially. Also, he being a point guard in today's game and evolution of basketball, a lot of point guards actually crash the board for rebounds. So improper landing after a jump could also predispose you to such kind of an injury. Treatment for such kind of an injury is early surgical reconstruction. But what is of more importance after surgery is the rehabilitation process, which it would encompass to regain strength, stability, and also, in particular, Kyrie, he would also have to work on proprioception, which is the awareness of body positioning.
Okay.
So it's not about if players return from ACL injuries, but it's how well they return from such an injury. Typical recovery is usually 9 to 12 months, but some players go as long as 15 months to ensure they return to their pre-injury strength and function.
Okay.
What's interesting is studies have shown 80 to 86% of NBA players who undergo ACL reconstruction successfully return to the NBA level of play. Also, 98% return to the level of play in terms of the G League or FIBA.
Right. Okay. Nice. So generally, yeah, it's once everything is taken care of and they do what they need to do, rehab and everything, they could come back to
They could come
pretty
back.
much to what they were before. And of course, what kind of happened with Kyrie there, what you mentioned, the starts and stops and everything, that's really important. But the team situation was really dire with the trade of Luka Doncic, him having to pick up a little more of the slack with the ball handling, and that kind of put a lot of energy into him moving and doing a lot more than he did. And I think that's what probably led to that as well. The increased workload probably putting a little more strain on his body there at that time. So yeah, thank you for that. Those were really great answers. I hope the viewers have learned a little more, scientifically about the body and how that happens and how they can take care of themselves. One more question, if you can answer that just really quickly. For Achilles tendons injuries, and I think this one was really important for me because when I had my injury, there was the decision of whether or not you have surgery or you have it heal naturally. When I went to the doctors at the time, they said actually it doesn't really matter which one you do. It kind of takes around the same amount of time, and there's not really much of a benefit doing surgery than letting it heal naturally. Can you talk a little bit about that in about a minute or two? Just what you think?
Sure. It all depends on, first of all, your competitive nature, whether you're professional or not. Also, it depends on if it's a full rupture, there is no way you can return without having surgical fixation. Because take, for example, it's a complete break. So the only way to heal it is essentially you have to open it and go inside and connect the two ends. So probably if it's like a grade 1 strain or tear, which is incomplete, you could put the foot in a certain position and immobilization, and it can heal like that. But once it's a complete tear for a professional athlete as well, surgery is highly recommended.
And
should be recommended.
That's the distinction there, because I think they didn't offer me surgery because I'm not a professional athlete. I played semi-pro basketball here in the UK, but those days are long gone. I was put in the new boot that came out, the Vacuped boots. I was in that for quite some time, and you're immobilized for quite some time as you kind of undergo your recovery, and asking you to do quite a lot of flexing and all that sort of stuff. So that's really good response on that as well. So thank you very much for that. Edmund, I'm sure we're going to be seeing you more throughout the season. I thank you again for kind of gracing us with your presence on this, and yeah, we look forward to talking about more injuries as they come up. Well, hopefully not. We're not hoping for more injuries for the players, but more education coming from it. What I like to do here to try to end off this episode, like I mentioned in your intro, your two businesses, Imagine More Sports Medicine, MediConnect Urgent Care. I know the MediConnect one is near the Maypen in Clarendon Hospital in Clarendon, is it?
Yeah, it's directly opposite the
Directly opposite there. And Imagine More Sports is just north of the Bob Marley Museum, in the corner in Kingston itself. So yeah, you have some lovely locations there for your service. So is it a walk-in facility or is by referral? It's how does that work?
So the MediConnect is the newer of the two offices.
Okay.
This one caters not just for sporting injuries, but general medicine in
Okay.
general, I would
Okay.
say. It happens by appointment and walk-ins.
Okay.
We offer as well nutrition coaching. It's the entire package essentially, nutrition coaching to sporting injuries to rehabilitation, because we have physiotherapy on board
Okay.
as well as a massage therapist if the needs be. Imagine More Sportsmed, which is the first one. It is a business co-owned with Dr. Jillian Lawrence, who
Okay.
is a certified sports physician. She's actually the team doctor for the Reggae Girls, who has back-to-back qualifications for the Women's World Cup. So,
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome. Awesome.
partnership with her as
Well,
well.
well, that's good. What I'm going to do right now is put the links and places where people could kind of get to those locations if they have any questions or would like to come in for any checkups or reviews of any injuries that they have. This is really great to see a young Caribbean guy from St. Lucia, from my family. I should also say Edmund is my nephew. But I didn't bring him on here because he's family. I brought him on here because he's an expert and he knows what he's talking about in this field. So it's great to see what you're doing. Continue to keep up the good work. Proud of you of what you're doing, and we shall be seeing you soon. Talking about more injuries and you giving your expertise.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you very much, man.